Hey VC, Vinyl Community, VC Cheers. Barry Winslow, logging on. Got a Starbucks coffee for the VC Cheers today. What's up guys? It's been about 3 months. Figured I'd hop on and do a quick VC update. Man, I tell you what, it's been a crazy 3 months. I found a ton of new vinyl that I've been digging through. I would imagine this is going to be a 2-part video, just because I've accumulated so much vinyl. I found some really great deals out in the wild. I don't know about all you out there in the VC, but at least in my neck of the woods, man, I've been having some great luck. Finding some just really great buys over the last 3 or 4 months. And so what I'm going to be showing here in this video, and possibly another video depending on how long I go, is just the incredible stuff that I've picked up in about the last 3 months or so. So looking at about April, May, June time frame, I've come across some incredible stuff. So enough yapping, I'm just going to get right into it. Huge VC haul, or a Vinyl Community just update haul of just a whole bunch of stuff that I found. Playing in the background, actually doing the CD player tonight. I like to play CDs on occasion. I'm definitely a vinyl guy, but every now and then I play a CD player. This is the new Fleet Foxes album that's due out in the stores tomorrow. This is their 2017 release, Crack Up. This is a burned copy. I do plan on going out tomorrow and buying the vinyl, but I just wanted to get a little intro into what the Fleet Fox boys have been up to. Incredible band. If you don't know Fleet Foxes, I highly recommend going out and checking out their music. I'm just a huge fan of Robin Pecknold and the whole crew there. They're just fabulous folk rock musicians, and I can't wait to get this newest record on vinyl. This is Crack Up by Fleet Foxes, due out in stores tomorrow, so go pick it up. Alright, so I'm going to get right into it. This first stack is actually a stack of vinyl that I went through and found through a connection on Facebook. He had a collection of vinyl that, through a record collecting community, basically a community page that I'm a part of on Facebook, I found out that this gentleman was getting rid of a whole bunch of vinyl and kind of clearing out his bins, if you will, to make room for new vinyl that he's found. So I figured, what the heck, I'll go check it out. Basically, it was one of those things where, hey, drop off to my house. I got a whole bunch of records set up in the garage, and whoever comes here, first come, first serve, go ahead and check it out. Whole bunch of different rock, folk, blues titles. Everything was priced to sell. So a lot of this stuff was not in the best condition, but it was clean, it was playable, acceptable. A couple pops and hisses, but nothing dramatic. And I'm all about getting a good deal on vinyl. So this first stack is from this first garage haul, if you will. These are alphabetical by location that I went and picked them up. So getting right into it, here we go. Carmen Appice, obviously the drummer for Vanilla Fudge. This is his solo record, 1981, Carmen Appice. All these were anywhere from $2 to $4. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I'm just going to kind of get through these as quickly as possible. So just going to go quickly. Carmen Appice, 1981, drummer for Vanilla Fudge. I listened to this. It was okay. It was okay. Not the best record I've ever heard in my life, but he's a hell of a drummer. Definitely worth checking out and giving it a spin and see if you do indeed enjoy it. I like Vanilla Fudge's stuff a little better, but Carmen Appice, really cool stuff here. Moving right along. Average White Band. This is Soul Searching. Sorry for the glare on these sleeves. Soul Searching, Average White Band. Jack Bruce, album called Harmony Row, his third solo release post Cream. We all know and love Jack Bruce, one of the greatest rock and roll bass players to ever live. This is a great listen. Harmony Row, Jack Bruce. Coming up next, This is Tim Buckley, and the album here is Greetings from LA. Classic Tim Buckley. The guy was just an incredible singer-songwriter, wonderful acoustic guitar player, really eccentric character. Obviously his son Jeff being a huge star, doing the Leonard Cohen Hallelujah cover back in the 90s. This is just excellent. Tim Buckley here, a must-have in any collection if you ask me. This is definitely 4 to 5 star Tim Buckley. This is Greetings from LA, an awesome live record, really cool. Alright, moving up next. This is Billy Cobham. Sorry for the glare. This is Spectrum from Billy Cobham. Wonderful drummer who played with Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin, for a while. Really great progressive rock and roll drummer. And this is just fabulous stuff. Spectrum, considered one of his greatest, if not greatest work. Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham, Crosswinds. Another essential piece of Billy Cobham's work. Really good stuff. Progressive rock and roll. Billy Cobham, this is A Funky Thide of Sings. Little bit more funk-based Billy Cobham. Gets a little bit away from his progressive leanings. His fusion, progressive fusion leanings, but this is really cool. Classic record here. Happy to pick this up for really cheap. This is Devo, Are We Not Men? Answer, We Are Devo. Devo's first record. This is awesome stuff. Happy to have found this. I'm going to shut off this light. Maybe that might cut down on the glare. Moving right along. Oh, maybe not. This is Al Di Meola, Land of the Midnight Sun. Obviously another fantastic progressive rock guitarist. Al Di Meola's got a huge catalog of stuff. He's played with all of the great progressive and jazz fusion bands. Just fantastic. And I highly recommend checking out his early solo work, especially his debut album here, Land of the Midnight Sun. Really cool progressive jazz, rock, just incredible guitar virtuoso. Al Di Meola, Land of the Midnight Sun. This is Dixie Dregs, What If, a really cool early 80s progressive rock band. Pretty synth-based, definitely 80s. It's a little bit of a dated recording, but I do love what they do. They're a heck of a rock band. Dixie Dregs, this is What If. Dixie Dregs, or the Dregs as they later went by. This is their next record. This is called Industry Standard. Another essential piece of Dixie Dregs' work. Really cool record here. Worth checking out. If you haven't checked out, if you're a fan of Yes, if you're a fan of Genesis, Jethro Tull, King Crimson, all of those 70s progressive rock bands, might want to go and check out a little bit later. 5 to 10 years later, the Dixie Dregs came around. They did incorporate a little bit more of their fusion-based work into their sound. Obviously pretty synth and keyboard sounding because of the 80s, but still really cool stuff. So if you're a fan of progressive rock and you haven't checked out the Dixie Dregs, make sure you do so. This is really cool stuff. Alright, moving along. Les Dudek. Really cool, kind of a southern rock, southern blues guitar player. This album is called Ghost Town Parade. Les Dudek. He's played with Greg Allman, all of the great southern rock greats. He's a phenomenal guitar player, and some of the musicians on this are just stand-up musicians. Mike Finnegan on guitar. Carmen Appice, who we just looked at, Jeff Porcaro, Jim Keltner, Jack Bruce. So a lot of Steely Dan, session musicians that played on Steely Dan records. Jeff Porcaro. Just a huge line of incredible musicians. There's the man himself, Les Dudek. If you're a fan of southern rock and roll, you know, Southern blues rock, ZZ Top, the Allman Brothers, Little Feat, things like that. I definitely recommend checking out Les Dudek, Ghost Town Parade. This is a really great album. Eric Gale. This is called Touch of Silk. Mid-70s, late 70s, might even be early 80s. I'm not quite sure. 1980. So early 80s. Really cool piece of just a wonderful jazz guitarist. Wonderful guitar player. Eric Gale. Really refined, very glossy sound. If you're into jazz musicians, if you like Al Di Meola jazz fusion, check out Eric Gale. Wonderful guitar player. This is Touch of Silk. Moving along, this is Andrew Gold. All of those, big proponent in like the mid-70s, late 70s, even early 80s. Kind of like a softer rock. I don't want to say like album rock or adult rock, but he's definitely got like a later, like late career Jackson Browne. He was big with like the Jackson Brownes and you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and you know, Joni Mitchell. All of those, that California singer-songwriter movement, the Eagles, things like that. Andrew Gold was a large proponent of that movement, and this record here, All This and Heaven Too, is a really great example of that sound, that time period. The more I listen to this record, the more I appreciate Andrew Gold. I don't think he got the recognition that he deserved. He definitely can be in the same sentence as all of those wonderful musicians that I've mentioned earlier. I feel like sometimes he gets overshadowed. But Andrew Gold, All This and Heaven Too. This is a great album. If you come across it for a few bucks, pick it up. It's very good. A little bit later, Andrew Gold career. This is Andrew Gold, Whirlwind. Not quite as strong as the album I've just shown, but still a really nice piece of his catalog. The guy just has a wonderful soprano voice, beautiful piano player, great guitar player. Yeah, excellent musician. Check him out. Andrew Gold, this is Whirlwind. Staying in kind of like that jazz fusion lane, here is Herbie Hancock. This is Future Shock. Really cool album from the mid-80s, I believe 83 or 84, 1983. Future Shock, this is really synth, pop synth driven. Definitely a change in sound for Herbie Hancock, but Herbie Hancock was always ahead of his time. Once again came back in the 80s when the rest of like the whole fusion world was kind of in the doldrums, and he just brought it back to life with this record, Future Shock by Herbie Hancock. Check it out. Awesome, awesome piece of music. Switching gears, here's Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks. I love bluegrass, I love folk, I love country and western, and all those things put together gives you an awesome Dan Hicks record. Love Dan Hicks. Definitely a smaller name in that whole movement, but this is a wonderful record. His first record with his band, the Hot Licks. Just really cool stuff here. If you're a fan of country, if you like bluegrass, if you like folk rock, check out Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks. This one's called Original Recordings, his first record. I love the artwork on that too. Alright, moving along. Corky Laing. Obviously played with Wes Bruce and Laing. Corky Laing was just a wonderful musician. This is his solo, his solo record called Making It on the Street. If you don't have a copy of this and you're a fan of Wes Bruce and Laing, check out Corky Laing's work here. He plays with wonderful musicians. If I'm not mistaken, he plays with some session musicians as well as some musicians from Muscle Shoals, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but I know that there are some notable musicians. I think Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett helped him in some of the recordings here. Who else is on this? I know that there's quite a few incredible musicians on this. Yes, the Muscle Shoals horn section. So he's playing, he's got Eric Clapton, Dickie Betts, Muscle Shoals, man, just the Bramlets. So many great musicians are on this record, and it definitely is an understated piece of music. Definitely rock music from that time, late 70s. I feel that this album is far superior to West Bruce and Lang. I love West Bruce and Lang. I have a few of their albums, but this is phenomenal. Really good stuff. So check it out. This is Corky Lang Making It on the Streets. Alright, moving right along. I picked this up because of the artwork. I'm a fan of Yes, but I just love the artwork here. This is McKendree Spring, their album Spring Sweet. I listened to this, and it's kind of like folk progressive. Kind of hard to pinpoint, but you know, it's just got some wonderful artwork. Obviously Roger Dean artwork here on the front, which is what captivated me to begin with. So I figured for a few bucks, what the heck, I'll pick it up and give it a try. I knew nothing about McKendree Spring. Happy to pick it up. If you don't have anything by McKendree Spring, I definitely recommend it. If you look for them, you can find them. They're a little bit more difficult to find, but if you pay attention, if you write them down on a want list, eventually you'll come across them for not terribly, large amounts of money. They're worth picking up. They're pretty collectible, and I think they're worth having. McKendree Spring, this is their album Spring Sweet. Alright, Men at Work. Obviously this one here, Business as Usual. This was a big hit record in the 80s, early 80s, 1982. Honestly, they're not one of my favorite bands, but I do feel that this record in particular is worth having in anybody's collection. If you're a fan of kind of like that really 80s kind of like mediated, I don't know, just kind of synth out pop. Short songs, pop rock, I guess you could say, but they add a lot of that electro pop, psych pop in it. You kind of get a feel for that. Men at Work, this is Business as Usual. Getting back into jazz fusion, this one's kind of got a rough cover, but it plays great. This is a promo copy. This is Pat Metheny Group, which is obviously Lyle Mays, Mark Egan, and Dan Gottlieb. I love Pat Metheny as well as Pat Metheny. There they are in the back. Cover's in rough shape, but I got it for $2. But the record's really clean. I gave these all a quick clean on the record cleaner, and they sound fantastic. Pat Metheny Group. This one's just called Pat Metheny Group. Their first record. Really cool stuff. More Pat Metheny Group here. This one's called New Chautauqua. More essential Pat Metheny, if you ask me. I'm a big fan of the Pat Metheny Group, and I like fusion. So, being that I'm a fusion fan and I love jazz rock, this is obviously going to fit right into my collection. Really good stuff. Really great blue-eyed soul singer. Scottish in descent, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's from Scotland. I could be wrong. If not, he's Irish. One or the other. He actually might be Irish. Scottish or Irish. I forget. This is Frankie Miller. His album Full House. This guy, he had the vocal abilities to be just as big as some of those gravelly, big rock singers like Joe Cocker. He's got that wonderful, like, really smoky, rough, growly kind of voice with a wonderful blues and just a blue-eyed soul. Almost sometimes does a gospel thing. This guy's incredible. Frankie Miller. This is Full House. Really great stuff. If you haven't checked him out, if you're a fan of Bob Seger, if you're a fan of Joe Cocker, if you're a fan of even, I guess, in a way, Van Morrison, the way that this guy puts together all of those elements, just a wonderful smoky voice. Frankie Miller. This is Full House. Really cool stuff. Check it out. Another Frankie Miller record here, a little bit later. This one's called Easy Money. Not nearly as strong as Full House, but still really a couple good moments here. Frankie Miller, Full House. I'm sorry, Easy Money. Wes Montgomery, I love jazz. This is an essential piece of early jazz. I guess I shouldn't say early jazz, 70s jazz. Wes Montgomery, one of the most prolific jazz artists, progressive jazz, I guess you could say. Free jazz artists in the 60s and 70s. He's still doing it, or was doing it for the longest time. This guy, his name pops up everywhere. He's one of the all-time greats. This one here, down here on the ground, for $2. I figured, what the heck, I'll clean it up, pick it up. That sounds really nice. Folk singer-songwriter Kenny Rankin. This album's called Silver Morning. What a beautiful record. If you're not familiar with Kenny Rankin, if you like, I don't know, if you like Van Morrison, if you like Kenny Loggins, if you like Jackson Browne, if you like Crosby, Stills, Nash, or any of those members solo, James Taylor, even, I don't know, maybe even early John Denver. If you like that kind of sound, check out Kenny Rankin. This guy's wonderful. Just a really nice folk, I guess an acoustic singer-songwriter. This guy's great. Got a great voice. I found this to be a very pleasant album, easy to listen to. Waking up in the morning, having a cup of coffee, this is a great spin. This is called Silver Morning by Kenny Rankin. Really interesting virtuoso jazz artist here. He's actually a wonderful woodwind player. He plays flutes and soprano sax, alto sax, all sorts of different woodwind instruments. And his name is Rashawn Roland Kirk. This album here, if you can see that, there it is. This is called Blackness. And he's known for playing multiple woodwind instruments at one time. This dude is something else. If you like progressive jazz or free jazz, instrumental jazz, things of that nature, and if you like open-ended music, things that don't have a lot of refrains or verses, this guy is all over the place, but he's a wonderful musician. Really hard to categorize and pin down, but worth a listen. This is really cool stuff. Rashawn Roland Kirk, his album Blackness. If you're not familiar with Rashawn Roland Kirk, pick him up. Really good stuff. Moving along, kind of a folk troubadour. At his earliest moments was compared to and clumped together with Bob Dylan. Kind of went in a different direction as Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan went in a whole bunch of different directions, so he's kind of hard to obviously pin down as well. But this is Tom Rush, Merrimack County. Not one of his more prestigious works, not one of his better works, but it's still a very nice listen. There are some great moments on this record. If you're a fan of Dylan, if you're a fan of folk rock, singer-songwriter type stuff, highly recommend Tom Rush. This is Merrimack County. Look for his earlier stuff. His first record, just called Tom Rush, 1965. If you can find that one, pick it up. Really good stuff. Tom Rush, Merrimack County. Staying in the same vein, acoustic, wonderful acoustic guitar player. This is Richard Ruskin. This is on the Tacoma label. There's a lot of great artists that have come through on the Tacoma label. One of them being Leo Ketke. So if you're a fan of Leo Ketke, you would like Tom Rush. You would like that Kenny Rankin, and definitely this Richard Ruskin. This is really good stuff if you like acoustic folk, finger-picking style. I wouldn't say country. It's country-esque, but it's definitely more folk grass, I would say. Richard Ruskin, this guy's a mean guitar player. Wonderful acoustic guitar player. Check him out on the Tacoma label. This is Richard Ruskin. Really happy to have found this. Leon Russell, his first record, just self-titled. Leon Russell, got this for $4. Been looking for a clean copy of this. Cleaned it off with the record cleaner. It sounds excellent. So happy to have this in my collection. Leon Russell. Alright, and moving on. John B. Sebastian. I love me some John B. Sebastian. Wonderful, wonderful musician. Was really big in, 60s, kind of like the whole peace, love movement. He played a lot of large festivals in that time. And the players on this, I mean, he plays with David Crosby. He plays with Stanley Brothers. He plays with Stephen Stills, Dallas Taylor, Burt Collins, Danny Weiss, Graham Nash. Just huge names. John B. Sebastian. This is a really great record. It's worth picking up. As you can see there, that kind of gives you a feel for what you're going to be getting into. What an incredible photo. John B. Sebastian. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this record, but Billy Squier found a nice clean copy of this for $2. Picked it up, cleaned it up, and this is still this whole stack of stuff I got in that garage. I did pretty well that day. Kind of bought everything like a lump sum here and went home and cleaned it all up. And yeah, really happy. Stephen Stills live. Love Stephen Stills. Half of this being acoustic, half of it being electric. Obviously the acoustic side and the electric side. Stephen Stills live. Great stuff. Gotta love Stephen Stills. Moving on, Tom Verlaine, getting towards the end of the alphabet in this stack. I'm going to stop after this video since I've been talking for almost a half hour. Tom Verlaine, obviously the lead singer and kind of creative nucleus behind the band Television. This is his solo record called Dreamtime. Tom Verlaine, really cool, kind of like a proto-punk, wouldn't say punk full on because it's not that heavy, but it's definitely got punk stylings in it. Kind of a dry recording. Very simple, quick pop punk sounds. Shorter songs. Good stuff. I found this to be a very nice listen. If you're a fan of Television, if you're a fan of Men at Work, early 80s kind of stuff, I highly recommend checking this out. This is 1981, Tom Verlaine with his album Dreamtime. One of my very last pieces in my Yes collection, Yes Tormato, kind of near the end of their creative peak, but there are some pretty cool moments on this record as well, so for a few dollars I figured I'd pick it up and have a nice copy of Yes Tormato. And the last record in this stack, this is Jesse Colin Young, another wonderful guitar player. Kind of got that folk rock troubadour thing going on. Jesse Colin Young and his record, Love on the Wing. If you don't know Jesse Colin Young, I highly recommend checking him out. If you like early Neil Young, this would be something that would be, comparable to those musical stylings. So really cool stuff. So there we are. That's the first stack of stuff. I'll be back for another VC Vinyl update. A lot more going on in this stack that I have to get to yet, but I wanted to get this first video out to you. Enjoy. Hope all is well, and we'll be right back with another update. Take care. Bye-bye.